I'm incredibly excited to have you here with us today. We're going to be talking with several Startup Weekend founders who took their idea well beyond the weekend and engaged a community that was very supportive of what they were trying to accomplish. We have Samyr, Jonathan, and Alex, all founders of companies that came out of a Startup Weekend, just like the one we'll be having coming up in Lakeland, September 6th through the 8th. The registration information will be in the link, and I look forward to your comments as we talk about how Startup Weekend was very impactful for what they were doing. The first part of this is really to get to know who they are and what they went to, which weekends they went to, so you can get an idea of what the impact was for them and how long ago that weekend was. Alex, why don't you start us off? Tell us a little bit about yourself, the company you founded, and how long ago you were at Startup Weekend.
Sure. Thanks for having me on. Well, I'll say it's only been it's been about coming up on a year now. It doesn't seem like it, but it was back in November of 2018. I was one of my professional goals was to become a better public speaker, and I was talking to one of the organizers, and she said, "Oh, I'd like for you to come and speak about entrepreneurship at Startup Weekend." I didn't know what entrepreneurship was. I didn't know what Startup Weekend was, but apparently she thought I was an entrepreneur because I had started a networking group on the side of my corporate job. And we got to talking, and she said, "No, I changed my mind. I don't want you to speak anymore. I want you to come out to this event. I want you to participate." And I got approval from my wife somehow. We had just had a kiddo, and she gave me the whole weekend off to work on this thing. And I came up with the idea the day before. We put together a team on the spot. It was kind of magical. You know, I was nervous. I didn't know if I was going to pitch anything. I felt super out of place, really, coming from a corporate job and, not really even knowing that this whole startup world existed in our community. And next thing you know, they're announcing that we won first place. We're all hugging. The energy was incredible and intense. And afterwards I was like, I don't know if I can go back to a real job after this exciting weekend.
That's incredible. With it being over a year, we'll get into a little bit about what your idea was and where you've taken it to. But let's hear from Jonathan next and his experience and what got him involved with Startup Weekend.
Yes, well, Robert, thank you for having me. So very much like Alex, I went to the Startup Weekend in November, but back in 2016. I moved around that time, so 2016, about 3 years ago. I moved to Tampa from Texas, and I had an idea that was irking me ever since I moved to Tampa, and I was just working on it for 3 months, and I still kind of burnt out on just working on the idea by myself, and thought I've done everything I possibly can do. And to the point that I even called my mother and I told her that, I think coming to Tampa was a mistake. That I think I'm going to be coming home next semester from attending the University of Tampa. And lo and behold, someone told me about Startup Weekend, and I told myself that I've done everything I possibly could do, and I would be lying if I didn't take this chance. And lo and behold, I went to Startup Weekend, pitched my idea, was chosen out of 12 ideas to be worked on during that weekend, and we didn't even place top 3. We just shied to 4th place. But from there, I met my co-founder that I've been working with ever since, and I couldn't thank enough for Startup Weekend, because that's where I found my business partner, and that's where we really started my company Verapy.
Wow. How long ago was that?
So give and take, that was back in November 2016. So do the math, I'll say that a little over 2.5 years ish.
Yeah, it's getting there. We're almost coming up on the 3rd year. That's really exciting.
Yeah,
Samyr, tell us a little bit about yourself and your story. Did we lose Samyr?
Nope, I'm here. Sorry
Okay.
about that.
No
I was
worries.
muted.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what led you to Startup Weekend?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually sort of look at Startup Weekend as really the original platform for me pitching my company, which is Knack. And it was sort of a reason to start. That's the reason I attended it, is I had this idea that was percolating in my head and had no business experience, had no, I had one friend, my best friend, who's now my co-founder, that I had sort of talked to this idea about. And he said, hey, there's this event called Startup Weekend Gainesville, and we should attend it. So I drove from Fort Myers at the time to Gainesville with this idea of creating a peer-to-peer learning marketplace. And we went there and sort of presented the idea in its first version, formed a team with some other folks who had lived in the area and have dabbled in entrepreneurship. And it really served as a great place for me to validate, or at that time really invalidate, my idea and part of the idea. So we sort of, softly put a team together, and Dennis and I said, hey, let's go into this and see what people think. It's an opportunity of market validation and sort of just getting people's thoughts on it. So again, it's sort of a reason to start. And that's really all we needed. And we started there and honestly did really bad. We didn't place. I think we probably placed towards the bottom. But it taught us a lot about entrepreneurship and what it takes to build a business. And so, Dennis and I stayed in touch after, and I said, hey man, I was pretty serious about that idea. And while we failed a little bit by losing that, I think we learned a lot. And so we sort of took our learnings and kept in touch. And the other team members, I think weren't necessarily as gung-ho about it, but I think for me, it was really something I was passionate about, and Dennis as well. And I want to say 4 years later, here we are as an organization, as a startup that now has 10 employees, and we've raised significant venture capital. So honestly, if it wasn't for Startup Weekend, I would have still been working my corporate job and would have never really had that push to start. And so for me, Startup Weekend really means a lot, and I can't sort of speak of its value high enough. I think it really pushes you out of your comfort zone. It makes you sort of do primary market research and from A to Z, really think about the business in a fast motion where that's also competitive and makes it fun. So I've always sort of tried to stay plugged into the Startup Weekends locally, and really can't recommend it highly enough.
Wonderful. Myself included in that Startup Weekend journey really was the core initiator for an idea that I ended up pursuing for several years. And what really plugged me into the Tampa community was the concept that I started at Startup Weekend. I completely agree. I think it's really interesting that we have two individuals that were entrepreneurs and kind of went into it from an entrepreneur mindset, and two individuals that were in the corporate space and didn't really come into Startup Weekend expecting to leave with a concept that had any legs or traction beyond something interesting to do and something to try out in the community. Obviously, Startup Weekend's goal is to not only help you validate or change an idea, but also to help you connect with the community around you. And those friendships that I made during those weekends, and I'm sure you all as well, really have lasted well beyond that one short weekend. And getting involved in the community around that is really incredible. There's incredible people who support and are part of that entrepreneur journey. I think I want to dive in a little bit to each of yours experience during the actual weekend. Can you tell me a little bit about what was the most rewarding experience or part of that weekend? And if anything, what would you improve about it?
I can kind of jump in on that one. There was one moment where, like Jonathan said, you pitch your 1 minute pitch for your idea. A bunch of other people pitch as well, and then you put your idea up on a wall, and then everybody goes around and votes on their favorite ideas. And so it's like, it's this quick win environment where, you do a pitch, you either win, or if you don't win, and you get to, see if your idea that you picked won. And so there's like a lot of adrenaline going. But there was one moment where I looked up and I was like, what's going on right now? Like I have worked on a bunch of side projects in the past, just, kind of as a funtrepreneur. But at one moment I was like, I think that the reason that I haven't been successful in some of my past projects is because I've been trying to do it solo. And now here I am surrounded by, I think we had about 5 people on our team. And it was just like I had 2 developers. I had someone with sales background. We had a guy that just knew the business model canvas and the strategy behind everything inside and out. We even had a photographer and a woman that owns a arts warehouse in St. Pete. So it was just like such a diverse group. And I was like, where else are you going to find all these people, especially developers? I mean, it's kind of, that's the magic I think that is most enticing about Startup Weekend, is that you have developers and you have marketing people. Like, and it marries those two together, because I could market an idea all day long, but if I don't have anybody to build it, it's not going to help me, and vice versa. I've seen some developers that come up with some beautifully coded products, but you got to get it out into the world. So for me, that experience of just the community coming together was really powerful.
Absolutely. I completely agree. That connectivity. One thing I would definitely key on is that to start talking with people and making connections right in the beginning is incredibly important. I think standing around and waiting for people to come to you, that was groundbreaking experience for me. Is I realized very quickly, if I just stood there and wasn't engaging people and inspiring them to join my cause, I wasn't going to be able to see that traction over the weekend that I was hoping for. Jonathan or Samyr, do you have any comments?
Jonathan, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, sure. So, very much for me was that I got out of my comfort zone. So while I was attending the University of Tampa, I believe that that was it. That's all the entrepreneurship that's out there in Tampa. And I was very wrong about that. But it was very much getting out of my comfort zone, getting in and joining people, and really getting the idea selected was really a rude awakening that I had to be a leader for the really those 3 days. And leadership was never my strong point. And not only that, I didn't know what it was that I needed for my team. I did not know what a UI or UX meant. I had no idea. MVP was still most valuable player in my mind, so I had no idea what it meant. So a lot of just basic startup or entrepreneurial definitions I didn't understand. So me going into it was, well, quite candidly, didn't know anything. And so when I'm getting put into there and I'm meeting all the different mentors I can speak to about, like, how am I supposed to present this? An idea that I could hardly grasp, and how I can build have a team that I have to really build out the idea from that ideation.
Absolutely. It's incredibly important being that leader and engaging individuals, and the education you receive, not just around how to accomplish it, but some of the vocabulary, it sounds like, was incredibly important to you.
Yeah, I've learned so much just during that 3 days. Then I learned within like 1 year of being at the University of Tampa and being as an entrepreneurship major. I learned more than those 3 days.
Yeah, I like to akin the word of an MBA boot camp, right? You really get the overall theory and how to apply it in such a short amount of time.
And you want to take a nap the next 2 or 3 days as well, because your brain's just overloaded.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's definitely all you can do, everything you have, give it your 100%, and then you need a vacation after. Samyr, any thoughts?
Yeah, can you just repeat the original question?
Absolutely. I think we were really trying to key in to what the experience meant to you, right? And how it was rewarding, right? What were the things that you learned that didn't that you weren't expecting to, and what would you have improved if you could go back or change about something about Startup Weekend?
Yes, I think what was really awesome is that, you know, I was working a corporate job at the time, so this was just something I was doing because I was interested in starting a company and had sort of this mindset that I would ultimately be happier that way. And I think the awesome piece about Startup Weekend is I had sort of a chance to think about what life would be like as an entrepreneur, and over the course of 3 days, in terms of the problems I would have to solve and the, you know, people I'd have to potentially work with and the approach to just organizing the business. And I realized that sort of challenge to me was just so exciting. And the idea of this, the idea of my own idea basically being potential based off of some feedback I got too was just really great. In terms of what I would change, you know, I did it so long ago, it's 4 years ago now, and I've been to other ones, and I think they've all progressively gotten even sort of more prominent, better attendee counts, just in general, a better organized event. At the experience that I had, the mentors weren't the greatest, and I hate saying that because I know nowadays they're a lot better, at least from the ones I've been to. And a lot of that is sort of just by nature of the city. And, you know, Gainesville is a college town with a good amount of entrepreneurial activity, but it's not really a major city where you could have good mentors and judges coming in. So a lot of it was sort of extension of the university's resources. But overall, you know, I would still sort of paint it as a great experience. And, you know, things I wasn't expecting were just sort of getting a taste of what it meant to be an entrepreneur. And honestly, after being in it for about 4 years now, I can look back and say a lot of those problems that I was thinking about on the fly to really present at the end were ones that I'm still thinking about now to continually grow my business. So again, I think it's very sort of on a micro scale, the taste of an entrepreneur's life. And for me, again, it sort of gave me a reason to start.
That's a wonderful, great insight into how the event impacted what you were doing, how it's changed over the years to be even more impactful. And then, of course, the really insightful aspect of that, the same problems you were trying to solve then are still some of the same problems you're working to change now. I'd love to hear.
Exactly. And I think,
oh, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say that's exactly right. And obviously I was thinking at it on a much more sort of on the fly elementary level to just kind of check the boxes in terms of my pitch. But now it's sort of, you know, oh yeah, well, we did have to think about a different revenue model at one point. So, you know, it just forces a right frame of mind early on.
Wonderful. Something I think that you all can add real value to is, what would you wish you knew before you started, before you got into that weekend and really got going? Is there anything you would tell yourself if you could go back to that day?
Patience. It'll take time.
I'd say, yeah, for me, it's, Rome wasn't built in a day. You know, you get this kind of sense of, I just won this competition, or I participated in this competition over 52 hours, and you have that kind of adrenaline coming out of it, and you just want to take on the world. But you know, the only way to fail is to quit. But it's definitely not going to be a sprint. It's a marathon. So, you know, I think it's really easy to get burnt out. A lot of the members of my team, they were like, Alex, you got a full-time job, you've got a baby, and you're doing this like nonstop. You know, we're worried about you. And so, you know, if I could go back in time and tell myself anything, it would be, you know, you'll still be working on this hopefully many years from now. Pace yourself.
I mean, along those lines, I mean, I agree too. It's patience. You know, again, you don't know what you don't know. During my startup weekend, I mean, I didn't fully understand what is a prototype. How does a prototype work? What should I be doing? Is, you know, I have to build out a complete technology that's in the virtual reality space. first of all, I don't know the first thing, or actually at the time, I've never tried out virtual reality to begin with. So there was a lot of lack of knowledge and trying to get them to speed and really being patient with my team members. I had a very interesting team where I wasn't truly able to bring out their full potential for my idea, mainly because I didn't know what I needed from them. So if I were able to go back, is to really, before getting into things like this, at least have some basic knowledge. And but truthfully, besides changing things, some part of me also say that I wouldn't change anything, because I wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't for the mistakes that I had. I had no idea what a wireframe was, but I sure as heck know and will always remember because of the mistakes that I did. So there is that.
It's wonderful. I think we lost Jonathan a little bit there due to some technical. No, you're there. Okay, cool. Yeah, I completely agree. The experience, no matter for all its faults and what it is more about the experience and what you gain from it, and the faults or the obstacles is the best word I can use are 100% a part of the experience, and it's a safe place where you can come and make those mistakes. It's entirely what it's all about. It's okay to come in, not know anything, and learn an incredible amount in such a short amount of time. I think I want to end on some final thoughts and any advice you would have to somebody who's kind of on the fence. Remember, these individuals in Lakeland, for the most part, have never heard of this event, and I definitely want to give them some insights into why they should make that decision to come.
I'll say that the biggest piece of advice that I have is that it's all about your attitude. And for me, Lunchpool, my company, was just an idea the day before. It was a totally different idea than what it's turned into. And it's all about attitude, because at the end of the competition, we were having kind of a team regroup, and I said, guys, we went through this whole weekend without any arguments or obstacles really. And a couple of members of my team were like, are you serious? They're like, we had a lot of arguments. We had a lot of obstacles. And I was like, shoot, I guess we did, but we just breezed right through them because, you have to. You don't have enough time to really dwell on anything or linger on the negative. And so I'd say just go into it with a positive attitude. And if you're on the fence about going, thinking that you're going to feel out of place, go anyway, because being outside of your comfort zone, you're going to gravitate towards people that can help you succeed, and you could make something really cool or make a friendship that lasts forever.
Wonderful. Jonathan, do you have any insights?
Yeah, so my part is really confidence, right? Confidence is very much key. I think the confidence to even stand up there in front of people that you don't know, and some of you guys this is your first time ever really speaking out about an idea. And for me, that was very much so. And to understand that no matter how radical, how crazy your idea is, you are uniquely positioned to be the creator. You are the one that should be. Okay, can you guys still hear me?
Yes.
Okay. That you're all uniquely qualified to be working on the idea and be that founder of this amazing idea that you guys have. Myself, I'm working on an idea with virtual reality and physical therapy. Two areas I have no knowledge in starting out. I'm a fashion designer, and I'd never tried virtual reality when I started on the idea. So for me to even wrap my head around it was almost near impossible. But I still believed in it and was very passionate about it, and built a team around it. So again, no matter how radical the idea is, try it out.
Wonderful. Samyr?
Can you repeat the question again? I just get so lost in these stories. And I'm like, man, what was the question?
No worries. If there was something that you could say to someone who's on the fence, what would you say? And do you have any additional closing thoughts?
I mean, if you're on the fence, what's the downside? You know, you're not. It's a very non-hostile, very comfortable setting to experiment with an idea, have a little fun, meet new people, and you know, learn at a high level what it's like to be an entrepreneur. And I think if any of that sounds interesting to you, then there's really no downside in giving it a shot. I think you'll come out you know, better for it, and I think it'll teach you a lot if you actually go into it with the right attitude. And I think it's definitely worth something just giving a shot at, and again, at least getting to know folks and maybe joining a team or starting a team.
Wonderful. Those some amazing closing thoughts. And I truly appreciate Alex, Jonathan, and Samyr joining us today so that we could go into some of the insights behind what an impact this event has on your life. I truly appreciate your time and look forward to seeing you at Startup Weekend Lakeland, September 6th through 8th. We can definitely find all the information on our Facebook page, which is Startup Weekend Lakeland, or Catapult's Facebook page, where we'll be hosting the event here in Lakeland. Thank you so much for your time. I truly appreciate it and look forward to seeing you soon.